Okie folks, welcome back. Culture's Felder Rushing, and we're talking about gardening. I know it's some weird weather ahead of us. We can talk about it. There's some things you can do, some things you probably don't need to worry about, but we'll get to that. It is a live program, though. If you want to give us a call, we've got the lines wide open, and we welcome folks who are listening both on MPB online, on the radio, and also the live stream folks who are watching us on YouTube. How are you today, Java? What's up, man?
I'm doing fine, Felder. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. The snow has finally started melting here. I'm in Lancashire, England. Been walking around. Went to big city of Manchester the other day. Snow is about done, but we're supposed to get some more next week. It may be colder in Mississippi than it is in England.
Well, that's what I was about to say. The big news over here is I think either Sunday or Monday we're going to get some really cold temperatures, and Tuesday for a good portion of central Mississippi, there's some snow flurries in the forecast.
Yeah. So, and there's some things you can do about that. Any idea how long they're predicting it's going to get cold up in North Mississippi? I know it's going to get down to the teens, but is that about it?
I think so. I think they don't have the precipitation like they got the big snow
Yeah.
about a week ago.
Well, before we go to their phone calls, I have a picture that I sent for our live stream producers called hoarfrost. I don't know if you can put that up that quick or not, but it's a we don't have hoarfrost in Mississippi. It's not snow, it's not frost, it's frozen fog. And you see, it looks kind of spiky. It looks like my hair if I was touching a Tesla coil. You
What?
know,
Frozen
straight out.
fog?
Yeah, it's really foggy here. It doesn't get really that cold in England because it's surrounded by the Gulf Stream, but it's cold air because we're talking about Northern Europe. Right across the channel is the Netherlands. But we have a lot of fog and a lot of snow because it's kind of warm, but it's kind of cold. And when we have a lot of fog and it frosts, instead of making frost, the fog freezes on the end, sort of like icicles, except it's frost sickles. And they go stick straight out like a cat. You show a cat that's been scared, hair sticks straight out, and
Yeah,
it
no,
makes patterns.
I'm
It
looking at
almost
the
looks like,
picture.
yeah. And so when it gets on windows, it looks like spider webs because it's frost that it's sort of like frost sickles that go in any direction, even straight up in the air. So anyway, I haven't seen much hoarfrost in Mississippi, but anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about gardening. And you said we already have a caller.
Yeah, our first caller for the show, I believe this is our good friend Jim in
Yep.
Jackson.
Good morning, Jim. How are you today?
Good morning, Felder. Did you know that you're a media star? I know that you are well known for your radio work, but on the online version of the Clarion Ledger, you're on the front page.
How did I shave? I don't know about stuff like.
Well,
No, I didn't know about that. What's that about?
it's all about the steps you can take when it's very cold. It's very practical advice.
Well, that's right. A friend of mine who works for the Clarion Ledger had interviewed me a week or so ago. I hope I didn't say you can do a whole lot.
Well, there's not a lot you can do, but I'll tell you what I did with my satsumas. I got tired of losing them to the frost, so I've got them both in pots, and I've just brought them inside the garage.
Yeah, they'll do. Now every time it gets above about 50, I know you might want to put them on something with some caster wheels so you can roll it. But anytime it's above 50, plants really need a real sun, even cool temperatures above 50, and they'll do a whole lot better with the humidity and the real sunshine. So I wouldn't keep them until spring, but good thinking ahead there.
But thank you for the advice you gave me on my green tomatoes. I brought them all inside right after the first frost, and they've been gradually turning red, and I've just been enjoying delicious homegrown tomatoes throughout the month of January.
Good, 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 good. Well, that's just part of gardening. It's called extending the season. Anyway, appreciate your call, Dean. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the heads up on the Clear and Ledger thing.
Thanks, Felder.
You bet. Java, it's I don't know what they said on it clearly. When you talk to reporters, you try to keep it as simple as possible so they don't misquote you. And the truth is, there's not a whole lot of stuff we can do. I think I mentioned last week that it gets down to the teens. That's average for Mississippi. That's what we're supposed to. That what makes us zone 7 and 8. Down on the coast, zone 9 is supposed to do this. But we have warm weather with sudden dips, and that's what causes problems. Um, about the only thing I can recommend, sort of a bottom line, and I've been doing this for a long time, working with fellow horticulturists. I talked with Gary Bachman about this. To everybody, if you've got potted plants and they're outside, need to water them, set them down on the ground, maybe up against a wall. That's what I did before I left Jackson last month. Put my potted plants down on the ground, up against the south facing wall, and as long as they get watered pretty good, they have a good chance of. But put them down on the ground. Um, Other thing, if you got shrubs that are starting to bloom, there's not much we can do to help. I'll be honest with you, Java. A lot of people are talking about covering their plants up, and it doesn't hurt to cover them up. If it makes you feel good, you go for it. But if it's a normal plant, it does not need covering up. If you do cover plants, make the covers go all the way to the ground, because what we're trying to do is create a dome that catches radiating heat coming up from the ground. It doesn't protect that much from cold. Cold will go right through a blanket. It'll go right through plastic after a few hours. So what we're trying to do is create like a warmth dome to sort of like putting a tent over it that catches the warmth coming up from the ground. And there is a good bit of warmth. The ground molecules are warm and they want to escape to the cold molecules in the air, or whatever Neil Tyson, whatever would say.
Neil
Anyway,
deGrasse Tyson.
yeah, use it to catch heat from the ground, not protect from cold from above. So
Now,
and that's yeah.
talking about the degrees of the soil filter, you did leave a bag of tools here, and one of the tools in the bag, I think, is a soil thermometer.
Well, sort of. That's it could be a soil, and a lot of people use soil thermometer. That's actually a compost thermometer. That's how hardcore I am, Java.
Oh Lord.
I don't just compost, but I stick a long stem thermometer. I mean, it's got a little. The thermometer's around like a disc, but it's got a long metal thing, and you stick it down the compost to see how warm your compost is.
Does compost have an optimum temperature?
No, not really. If you pile a bunch of leaves up, they're just gonna sit there. But as they start to break down, the energy they gives off warmth. And if you pile it up and add nitrogen or grass clippings or food scraps, green stuff mixed in with it, that thermometer I have actually got up to 153 degrees one time. That is literally, you stick a shovel in it and steam literally comes boiling out of it.
That
So
is
you can get
that
it
is
pretty warm.
hot.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's what a lot of people further north do for their raised beds. They have little small raised beds, and they'll pile fresh manure around the edge of the bed, and as it decomposes, it gives off heat. Manure, cow or horse manure, it'll give off steam on a cold day. Anyway, the bacteria as they break the carbon down in leaves and stuff, they give off warmth. So anyway, I like them. If you get your compost up to 140 or so degrees for 2 or 3 or 4 days or a week or so, it'll sterilize the seeds, weed seeds and stuff. So that's one of the reasons why people, when they make compost, you've heard you're supposed to turn it and aerate it and all that stuff. That's just to keep it fluffed. It's like blowing on a fire. It really builds up the heat, and that's what kills weed seeds and pathogens and stuff. More than most people need to know. I can get into so much detail about composting. Just a little brag. I worked with the American Horticultural Society compost research team years ago. We had 80 different kinds of compost systems, store-bought stuff and homemade, and we tested them all. Which ones make the best compost? And turns out just a plain old leaf pile works. It just takes a little bit longer. So I pile my stuff up in a little corner against a fence, and every now and then I'll move it from one side to the other. I just show a little aerobic exercise, just dig it. It's like moving mashed potatoes from one side of your plate to the other, and in the process, mixing your gravy in with it. And you do that every week or two, and that's about all you really need to do to have pretty fast compost. Anyway, more than that, we have any calls?
Yeah, we do have a call, but before we get to Lena or Lynn in Alabama on the phones, I do want to say good morning to Rebecca, tuning into the YouTube live stream in Gulfport. She left us a comment, and I have a question from Amanda. She actually sent it in pretty early in the live stream. She says, "Good morning. Should I loosely cover my raised beds that have cabbage and broccoli growing for the upcoming frigid temps?"
Yeah, and where did she say where she's from?
She did not say. She did not say.
Okay. It's a good idea to cover raised beds because again, you're not trying to protect it like a blanket to protect us from cold. You know, a blanket works from underneath. Your body heats up a blanket. And that's the idea. If you got a raised bed, if you can get some rebar or some PVC pipes, and I don't mean like a covered wagon, but just a low hoop to get up above the plants and stretch it from one side of the bed to the other side, just a low covering, and make sure it's either fastened or held down with boards or bricks or something on either side. It creates a really nice little heat sump, and taller is not better. So what I would do is put some sticks out there or some hoops and put you some plastic over that's a inch or two above your plants and make sure it's fastened all the way around. And it'll work like a charm. By the way, they have this stuff called frost blanket. Not many people carry it in Mississippi. It's really loose woven. It almost looks like a sheet of white cotton candy. And it's a real special fabric that will retain heat. And but at the same time, if the sun comes out the next day, it won't burn your plants like plastic will. So if you cover up in the daytime, if you cover up at night, it's a good idea to uncover it if the sun comes back out, or it can get super hot and cause more damage than the freeze wood has. Light coverings, uncover, at least vent it when the sun comes out. It is a good idea.
And Amanda did respond.
A lot of information.
She did respond back. She is located in Dexter, right around Tylertown in Walthall County.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that big of a. If you can cover them up, if you put some sticks out in your garden and then put something on top of them like a plastic cola bottles or something, so the sticks don't poke holes or whatever. See, so you can just put sticks out there and throw a blanket or something or some plastic over it. And the putting plastic cola bottles on top of the sticks and keep the sticks from puncturing your plastic. Good idea.
All right, let's go to Lynn in Alabama, and then we'll take our first break.
Morning, Lynn. What part of Alabama are you from?
It's west central Alabama. I'm about 30 miles east of Columbus and about 30 miles west of Tuscaloosa.
I think I got a speeding ticket going down Highway 82 in one of those little towns.
You know exactly where I'm at. Then that would be Gordo, Alabama, or Reform. Those two towns both are famous for that very reason.
That's where it was, and I was just going normal stuff, but they got me fair and square.
Yeah, well, they'll drop you down from 55 to 35 right there in Gordo, and all of a sudden, boom, you're going too fast. So we've got one red light now. That's helped things. We've got one red light, so people know they got to slow down because they might get a red light, and so that's probably helped things. We're about to get a bypass, 4-lane that's going to go all the way around town, so you can go from Northport to Eupora without even touching the brakes.
Oh yeah, you keep going from Eupora now, so it's all the way. You can go from Greenville all the way to past almost to not Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa.
Northport's right before you get Tuscaloosa. There's red lights right there, but then and there's 4-way stop at Eupora on 82, if you can believe that. What
you got going today? What's up?
Hey, we've got hybrid daylilies. We grow them and kind of resell them. We've got about 800 varieties, and we were working in them just a couple of weeks ago. Getting them ready for this cold snap, pulling some old foliage off and mulching. And we were seeing a lot of aphids, and they're pretty dormant. Most of what we grow are evergreen or semi-evergreen. We don't have very many full dormant lilies, but they're kind of chewing on this foliage that's just sort of down near the base, and they're hiding in there. And so I'm not going to do anything with this weather coming in, and we try to, and when we spray, we try to take care of our beneficials, and so we try to use things that are very specific. But are those aphids doing us a lot of damage in the fall and winter when these things are pretty much dormant, or are they just eating on old foliage that's really not doing anything anyway?
Well, the aphids, they mostly suck sap, and one of the big problems with the aphids is they can spread diseases. They're not
Yeah.
as active in cold weather, but they're active pretty much year round in our part of the South. What's chewing on it may be crickets. It may be, wouldn't be grasshoppers. It probably not slugs, but whatever's chewing on it, probably doing it at night. Not much you can do about any of those this time of year. The sprays are not going to be as effective because the insects aren't that active. But I keep an eye on them when it starts to warm up a little bit. And if you see a lot of aphids real quick, there's some natural insecticides that, even though, I was raising it, natural organic wasn't that good. There's some very effective natural insecticides now that work on aphids that are less damaging to other things. So I just keep an eye on it this time of year.
Okay, well, that's what we thought, too. We did something a little different this year with them, too, and I just kind of would like your thoughts real quick, is that we mulched them with ground-up chopped alfalfa that we got from Tractor Supply, and we put about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of mulch around them with that, thinking that the nitrogen, that'd be a real high nitrogen and hopefully a real easy breakdown, that it would save us on our chemical fertilizer bill when it came time to fertilize.
Well, it can. It's a good idea. Natural fertilizers, they have several. I don't have a problem with synthetic fertilizers if they're used right, which is sparingly and frequently. Natural fertilizers, though, whether it's cottonseed meal or alfalfa meal or any of that kind of stuff, as it has to be broken down by microbes in the soil, bacteria, fungi, worms. They have to break it down into useful nutrients. So it doesn't work as well in the wintertime, but as soon as we start warming up, you'll see an effect. It won't be a dramatic effect because natural fertilizers are slow and steady and long lasting. And they also feed your soil, which is a good idea. But using the mulch alone, even if it doesn't have fertilizer, it's going to benefit the soil. But alfalfa meal, anything that's got a little nitrogen, it's a good idea. It's just not going to see any results over the wintertime when the soil is cold.
Well, what we're hoping for, too, is maybe some organic matter just for soil conditioning, maybe to lighten the soil and to make the texture a little better.
One of the drawbacks to southern soils is hot and humid. Our dirt gets hot and humid, and organic matter does not last long. It burns up real quick. It just disappears. But as long as you're mulching, without piling it so thick, you're going to run the risk of diseases without, crown rot and stuff. If you put mulch in between the plants, it will feed the soil really well. It's a good idea.
Okay, well, very good. Well, thanks so much for your help.
Oh, I have an anecdote for you, Java. You'll like this too. Years and years ago, I lectured at Daylilies Humical societies all over the place, and I was up in, believe it or not, Rehoboth, Massachusetts, or it might have been Rehoboth, whatever that little state is below. It's not really. It's Rhode Island. Anyway, this guy had 10 acres. He had 7,500 different daylilies for sale. You with me?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. My daughter was about 7 years old, Zoe, and I have a picture of her running up and down these long rows and rows and rows of all these daylilies. Well, the owner told her she could have any daylily she wanted. I'm thinking, holy cow! Some of these things sell for like $400 for a fan. And anyway, after my lecture, she came skipping up, and I was talking with the owner and a couple of other garden journalists. And he said, "Well, Zoe, which daylily did you pick out?" And she said, "Well, I really didn't see one that I liked." 7,500. The reason she said that because she's always grown that old orange daylily that most people just don't really like, but she likes it because you can put it on top of the ground and scooch dirt up to it and it'll grow.
Oh,
so
yeah.
She was born thinking that's the standard. Anyway, good
they
luck
are,
on you.
And we try to educate and try to bring our clientele kind of up to speed on the new features and why these are expensive and why they are better because of bud count, because of resistance, and because of hardiness and rebloom. And they can call it some of them ever bloomers now, but they're really just rebloomers. But we grow about 800 varieties.
I
Yeah,
work
we
with a
grow
lot
about
of
800
different.
varieties.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
work with a lot of different kind of plants inside of hosta, iris, rose, succulents, cactus, all the different kind. But you daylily people, you hemi heads, hemerocallis heads, y'all got the coolest gardens because you use companion plants. It's not just daylilies. Daylilies are great, but a whole field full of them. But y'all will put little different kinds of companion plants out there, so you have just a real garden instead of just rows and rows of daylilies. I appreciate that.
we'd love to have you sometime if you're traveling through East Mississippi or West Alabama. We'd love to have you stop by and give us your take on what we're doing.
Well, I can guarantee this. I will not be zooming through there because last time I did, I got that speeding ticket.
No, don't
Anyway,
be speeding.
appreciate
No,
your
sir.
call, man.
Yeah, I talked to you soon. Thank you.
You bet. See you later. Oh, me, Java. What's going on, man?
Well, we actually kind of are close enough to our halftime break, but I did have an email that I wanted to run by you so we can hit our halftime break. Can I shoot it to you?
Sure.
All right, so we got
email it to me or tell it to me.
Well, I'm gonna tell it to you. It should be
good.
it should be fairly simple. Well, I don't know. I'm saying it's simple. We got an email from Lisa, and she says, "What plants should I seed in my yard that will improve overall soil quality? We live on 6 acres in a rural area outside of Jackson. I've read there are options like red clover, Vitek, field peas, and oats. Also, what might naturally have compacted soil? When should any of these be planted for earliest benefit?"
Yeah, it's a good question, and I have my favorites. I can rattle off that list, and I can double the list of what you had, including vetch. I heard you mispronounce vetch.
Yeah, you got me. Vetch.
I mean, that's the reason. That's the reason that I study.
That's the reason you make the big bucks.
Yeah, right. I am retired. Here's the deal. It depends on what you're growing there. If you're just trying to have a nice lawn or something, or well, that big an area, you can't have a nice lawn. Just mow it grows. What they do along the interstates and the highways, to me, is about the best. It's called crimson clover. The reason I like crimson clover, it's really hard. It comes up really well. You sow it in the fall. Might be able to get a little bit of growth this year, but really in the fall. If you sow crimson clover, it grows over the winter, and in the spring, in late winter, it starts to have those red flowers, those crimson flowers. And as soon as it does that, if you just cut it down, or maybe let it go to seed a little bit, cut it down, its roots have gone into the worst kind of dirt, and as they decompose, they leave holes for new roots and stuff to follow, but also it absorbs nitrogen from the air. It creates nitrogen, fertilizer from the air, and stores in those roots. So if you sow crimson clover in the fall or white clover, either one, and just mow it in the springtime, it will have a huge benefit on your soil. The reason I like both of those because they're manageable. Some of the other things like vetch, I like vetch, but it's a vine. It'll wrap up your mower. So I like to go with either crimson or white clover. Best sown in the fall.
Well, there you go, Lisa. I hope we helped you out this morning.
Yeah, and by the way, I do this myself in my raised beds. It's not just book learning here. And my son has a new lawn last fall, this past fall, but fall before last, we actually sowed white clover over his lawn. He had a beautiful clover lawn in the wintertime with flowers. And it came time when his neighbors started mowing their grass, he just mowed his and it had grass. So clover in the winter, grass in the summer.
All right, Phil, to take us to our cheesy tune.
Okay, got a cheesy tune, and it's sort of about tools. I was going to talk about the, quintessential tools and stuff like that, and how in the 1890s, a guy named Frederick Taylor, who was an industrialist, found out that workers who use the same shovel didn't do much work. So this is crazy. He found out that if you have different type of shovels, it's easier for the workers to put it down and pick up another and use it and get more efficiency. So digging.
We dig, give our mind the whole day through. To dig is what we like to do. It ain't no trick to get rich quick.
If you dig, dig, dig with a shovel or a pick.
We dig, 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 dig from early morning till night. We dig, 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 dig up everything in sight. We dig up diamonds by the score, 1,000 rubies sometimes more, but we don't know what we dig them for. We dig, 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 a dig, dig. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho. It's home from work we go. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho. It's home from work we go. Hi-ho, hi-ho.
Okie dokie, folks. Welcome back. Horticulturist Fellow Rushing. That hi-ho song was from Snow White from Disney. And again, it was about digging. A lot of people don't realize, Java, that up until about 120 or 130 years ago, all shovels were shaped alike. Everybody had the same shovel. They were either flat or they were scooped. But this guy named Frederick Taylor found out that you could take a shovel, and you know how sometimes they have they're flat, they got a square blade, and those are good for just digging. But if you want to pick something up, some dirt or gravel, and lift it up and throw it someplace, if you don't have a little crank on your, if it's not scooped, it won't hold anything. But also, a shovel's got that little angle from the blade to the handle. So when you pick it up, the blade doesn't point down towards the ground. You can carry stuff better. It's called the scoop and the crank and the lift. All the different parts of a shovel. I feel like such a geek talking about parts of a shovel, but this is Think Radio, and nobody ever talks about that. So anyway, one of the before we get to a couple of other things, I would like to remind folks this is a live program. If you want to give us a call, it's toll free 1-877-MPB ring. But I sent our production team,
Our live stream producers.
live stream producer Sahana and Blake. I sent some pictures, and one is of a plant called a sansevieria. It's in a pot with tinfoil, kitchen tinfoil wrapped around it.
Mother-in-law's tongue.
Yeah, mother-in-law tongue. Some people call it snake plant. Well, that was the tinfoil. Reason I'm showing that because my grandmother, the concrete chicken lady, not the horticulturist great grandmother, she had a pot of this mother-in-law tongue or snake plant, and she used tinfoil for the kitchen around the pot to pretty it up. You know, you gotta, it's called a make do. Plain old pot. She put tinfoil around it. But I noticed that she could grow that without having to do anything to it. You can grow that in an ashtray on top of the TV. It's a great plant. So I started collecting them, and I think I have a collection of some of my sansevierias, all different shapes and sizes. Some look like beaver tails. Some look like green carrots. Some are spiky. There's all different kinds of mother-in-law tongue relatives, called Sansevieras. And what I do is I bring them in the wintertime. Before I came over here in December, I put them all in my little south facing window. I've got a little area where the floor is not going to rot. And I put all these plants, I cluster them together, water them real good, and they will be there without being watered for months, all summer, all winter. Sansevieras can go for 3 months with no water at all, and they're interesting. But anyway, the main picture I want to show, I think I've got a picture of the flowers in a kitchen window here in England, of the amaryllis is blooming. Yeah, I'm using my background screen for the live stream, but the amaryllis, just one bulb had 2 buds in it, and each bud is making, I'm going to say 6 flowers that are bigger than my head. It's incredible. The Christmas cactus, things like that. These kind of plants can bring you cheer indoors in the winter when you'd rather be outside doing stuff. It gives you something to feel like you're doing something without having to worry about going out and covering stuff up. So there's quite a few of these plants. The 3 tips I like to give on caring for indoor plants: they like bright light. They don't like to be under a lamp. They want to be in a window if they can. They want to be out of direct heater draft because that dries them out, and they don't want to be watered as much. Water them when they need it, not regularly, because that can rot the roots. So they don't need as much water or fertilizer in winter. They just need bright light, and hopefully not in an air conditioner or heater vent. So that's what I would do. If you've got an amaryllis and it's got big flowers on it, you got it for a holiday, Christmas, or whatever. When the flower fade, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to cut it off or anything. But if you could just put it in a window, give it a little water, a little fertilizer, as soon as it gets warm in a month or so, set it outside, and it can actually be planted in the garden. It will bloom for years and years and years in the garden. So don't just neglect your amaryllis. Maybe snip off the little seed head looking thing at the top, give it some sunshine and water, and plant it this spring. It'll do great. So anyway, that was my tip on all that kind of stuff. What else we got, Java?
Well, the YouTube, yeah, we do have open phone lines if people want to call in. 1-877-MPB ring, 1-877-672-7464. But we do have a few comments from YouTube, the live stream. Say good morning to Pamela. I remember her from last week's show. She's checking in from Harleston, right north of Hurley. We also got Felicia listening in Raymond. But we got a question from a YouTube viewer in Mobile that says, good morning. I am in Mobile. I planted poppies for the first time in a new raised bed in October, but I don't think any came up. Was I too early? And is it too late to try for spring blooms?
Yeah, they should be thick as dog hairs by now. I planted poppy seeds, I think, in November. They should have come up really, really quick. Now, assuming you just threw them on top of the ground and watered them, because poppy seeds are one of the type that need light to germinate. So if you just threw the seed on top of the ground and wet them down a time or two, they should have come up. Now, they may have sprouted, and it was hot and dry when they were small, and they dried out too quick. So right at first, you got to water them to get them rooted. So it may have been they sprouted, and then we had a couple of weeks where they didn't get water or something, and the little sensitive seedlings might have dried. But you should have some out there. Anyway, if it doesn't work, you can still sow poppy seeds. They won't be as big when they bloom this spring, but if you'll go ahead and sow them out there, even now, just throw them on top of the ground, they should sprout and do okay. They should do okay. I grow poppies a lot. I grow those big old pretty red, I don't know how to say it. Well, they're opium poppies. There, I said it. They're opium poppies.
Wait a minute now, fella. Hold on now.
I'm not using them for that, and it's legal to grow these old-fashioned big old red poppies and pink poppies, sort of a salmon colored poppies. But if you got 5 acres of them, the DEA is going to come knocking on your door. So put a few here and there. That's what I do. I scatter a few here and there. Not enough to get me in trouble. I got long hair, Java. I don't need that extra stress.
You fit the profile.
I do. By the way, I want to give a shout out to our other MPB producer, Kevin Farrell. Instead of sitting in his office, he's screening the calls. So y'all give Kevin a call and say hey to him, and let's talk about whatever's going on in your garden.
Now we do have another comment from YouTube. This is Danny in Flowwood watching us. Good morning, Danny. He says, what is something I can be doing now to prepare a good bed for spring as a beginner gardener?
Okay, that's a really, really good question. And without writing a book here, if you have done nothing, if you don't have a bed at all, just plain grass or dirt out there, take a shovel, dig down a shovel deep and turn that chunk upside down. Just dig in. The first one's going to be hard. Next, go back a few inches, do it again, and just go down a row or your bed or whatever and turn the dirt upside down and then just chop it up a little bit and let it get rained on a little bit. And after that happens, you can spread some mulch, some bark, cheap bark mulch or compost manure over it, and then dig it in a little bit. You don't have to till it or anything, but just break it up good and deep, turn it upside down, knock off the big chunks, and then spread any kind of organic matter. And after 3 or 4 days after good rain, it can be dug in pretty easy. And that's really all you need to get started. We can make it better next year, but the idea is dig deep first, add some stuff to that, stir them together. And then if you want to plant before summer, there's all sorts of things you can plant, lettuces and cabbages and broccoli, if you can find them. Otherwise, go ahead and cover it with leaves or bark or something, so that ground will it's what they call mellowing. It will sort of break down and work together. It's sort of like taking a pot of chili and cooking it, and then turn it off, let it cool off, and eating leftovers the next day. It's so much creamier the next day. So dig it deep, add a little stuff to it, and then cover it with leaves or mulch, and then walk away from it. Next time you get ready to dig, it's going to be like digging into a chocolate cake. There. But don't feel like you got to get right at first, because it ain't going to happen. I can't get it right at first. I dig 3 times, and each time gets half as hard until that last one, it's like digging in banana pudding. And every now and then you got to add some fresh vanilla wafers to them, because the old ones get soggy. There, I fixed it.
Danny, I hope that helped you out. Give me a thumbs up in the comment if that
And meanwhile, containers, growing stuff in containers. You can put a tire on top of the ground and fill it with some compost and plant in that. If you paint the tire, it'll make the neighbors not think less of you, but think better less of you. In other words, don't just lay a tire on top of the ground. Hit it with some spray paint, make it pretty.
and just like your Spanish moss, hit it with some spray paint.
Yeah.
Let's go to our last break for the hour, Felder. See if we can get some calls, and drop your comments in the YouTube chat. Also, I got an email waiting for you. So let's take this break and then we'll come back.
Okay. I'm horticulturist Felder Rushing, and I'm a retired horticulturist. I'm a gardener now, and I've come to find out I'm not that great a gardener because I don't have attention to detail. I'm not going to work myself for a hobby. So I've got a pretty good garden, and it all comes from digging the dirt right and mulching, and not planting stupid stuff that doesn't want to be in Mississippi unless I feel like I want to baby it. So anyway, take your time, relax, breathe in. I got a quote here, real quick. What's her name? Aunt Mamie used to say about her plants: "Them that want to grow will grow." We're going to take a real quick break and come back. We got some lines open. Give us a call. Toll free 1-877-MPB-RING. We'll talk all about it. Folks, welcome back. Horticulturist Fellow Rushkin. And John, before you get that email, I was talking about parts of a shovel. Sounds so.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay. Let's come up and pick out any kind of S word, and it sounds one of those. Okay, stupid is a good one, but knowing little details about the parts of the tools that you use can help you appreciate using them. It's a gestalt thing. It's not just about production, it's about enjoying. If you've got a nice wooden handled spade or a shovel with a scoop on it, get you a flat bladed file and put a sharp edge on it. It's like shaving it. It's amazing the difference it makes if you use tools well, and you can't use them well if you don't know about them. So anyway, Google parts of a shovel and see if it doesn't make you feel like you got something to talk about next time you get stumped at a pub, or you're standing in the line with the groceries and somebody doesn't have anything. Say, hey, the difference between a shovel and a spade? One's got a flat blade, one's got a curved blade, and people will stop talking to you, but you'll feel smart. Anyway, Java, you said we got an email, right?
Yeah, we got an email. Actually came in a little while ago from Richard in Madison. And it reads, have crimson clover in the garden about 6 inches tall. What is the best time to turn it under in time for summer garden planting starting about April 1st? This is an open field of about 3,000 square feet in size. Thank you, and I enjoy your show.
Okay, 3,000 square feet, Java. That's a farm.
That's monster. Yeah.
And I grow crimson clover every year on my raised bed. I throw leaves on it. Crimson clover should be 3 or 4 or 5 inches tall right now. Sometime in late February, it's going to start growing more rapidly, and in March, it's going to really jump, and they'll start making those red flowers. That's when I usually cut mine down, because I don't try to say, see, as soon as they start flowering, that's as big as it's going to get. It's not going to get any bigger, so that's your maximum benefit. What I do is I mow it first to chop it up, let it dry down a few days, and then you can turn it in. It's a whole lot easier if you do that. So cut it first, let it dry a few days. If you want it to reseed itself for the next year, let those red flowers turn into brown seed heads and then do it. So we're still talking about in time, but if you'll turn it in and roll your garden up and give it a week or so before you plant, I think that's just about right. Just about right.
Okay. Now let's go back to the phones. We got Mary calling in from Pontotoc County.
Ooh, that's an ice box. That's way on up there. Mary, how cold are you? Hello, Mary.
I'm sorry, Mary. I have very fat fingers. Please call us back. Mary in Pontotoc County. If you can hear me, please call us back.
Java. Now they're on live stream. People can see that you do it sometime. You do it sometime, pushing wrong buttons. Yee-hoo.
I did. I pushed the wrong button, and that dial tone did not sound good.
Oh, well, it is going to get really cold. Not too cold, but really cold this next week. You need to hunker down. If you feel like covering plants up, keep in mind all the way to the ground is important. If the sun comes out, if it's plastic, you need to vent it during the daytime. If you got potted plants, set them on the ground. Is Mary back?
Mary is back. Sorry about that, Mary.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm fine. You cold enough yet?
It's a little nippy, but it's really beautiful up here.
Yeah.
All the snow's gone. And I'm looking forward for spring.
Yeah. Well,
It's not coming.
and I appreciate sitting and waiting until spring, but if you had daffodils and flowering quince and stuff like that, you could enjoy this time of year too. Anyway, just keep, I didn't mean to that was my opinion. What can I help you with?
We're out in the country, and we have got several magnolia trees that have just popped up out in the woods.
Yeah.
I think probably the birds brought the seeds in or something. And one of them is about maybe 30 feet tall. Another one's about 6. And then about 4 that are 4 feet or smaller. How long does it take for them to bloom? And
From seed?
do you think they're across to bloom?
A tree, it varies a lot. Trees generally take anywhere from 5 to 7, 8 years to go through a juvenile phase before they reach what we call flowering, fruiting maturity. It can be anywhere from five
Right.
years to it might be 10 years. It depends on the tree and stuff like that. But it's going to be at least 5 or 6 years before they bloom.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we were just really happy to see them just pop up out in the woods.
They did.
And
And by the way, this is the really stupid thing. Is Java meant to show you this, but I was watching some old reruns of a TV show called Seinfeld. Remember Seinfeld?
Show about nothing.
yes, uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, every now when they cut back from an outside scene back to the apartment, they always show the outside of the apartment. I got a picture. Oh, it won't show. I got a picture here on my phone. It won't really show. There we go. Anyway, when they show pictures of the outside of the apartment, they got 2 magnolia trees growing outside their window. This is in New York City, and they grow Mississippi's state tree. It's not
Oh.
native to New York, so they planted them on purpose. The Seinfeld has got a Mississippi connection.
Well, that's unusual. That's
Yeah,
that's very unusual.
I'll tell you
I've always
something you can
enjoyed
do.
painting
Let me
magnolias.
tell you something you can do. You can get a quart or gallon milk jugs, right? And stand back from a little bit and use like one of these handheld torches, soldering torches, and melt them down into flat things. You can hang them in your trees, and they look like magnolia flowers from the street.
Hey, that looks like fun. Yeah,
Well, I'm
that's a
just
good
saying.
idea. Yeah.
You know,
All right. And
appreciate your call. As I forgot who it was. Somebody in a movie called Steel Magnolias. Can't remember. She said the only thing that separates us from animals is the ability to accessorize.
Yeah, I remember that. That's one of the famous clips out of the many.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been kind of interesting today. The holiday plants, things, but also a lot of people really are worried about this weather. I've lost plants. I lose plants myself because I'm not a horticulturist at all. I'm just a gardener. I'm lazy. I plant stuff well, and I hope they make it. Um, but I did set my plants on the ground, my potted plants, and I'm not going to cover anything up. If it has to be covered up, it doesn't need to be growing in my garden. And it sounds cruel, but I dare say I've got a few plants. I've got at least 250 different kinds of plants, trees, shrubs, vines, perennials, grasses, bulbs growing in my garden, and none of them get covered up. So it is possible to have a beautiful garden, even in the wintertime. If you lose something, think twice about whether you need to plant that again. Keeping in mind, Java, last year I lost a magnolia tree, and whatever killed the dinosaurs couldn't kill magnolia trees. They're prehistoric. But bad weather is really bad weather. Not much we can do about it except cover plants up as best you can if you feel like it. But if you don't feel like it, don't feel bad about it. Not everybody, very few people statistically cover their plants up, and of those, only statistically few does it really help. A lot of people say, well, it really helped my plants. Well, because your plants didn't need it to begin with. But it makes you feel better, put a box over your azalea.
Now, last question, Felder. We just got it in the email. I can't send you this picture, but it is of a plum tree that has gotten pretty, I will say, maybe out of control. But the question is, good morning, Felder and Java. I have a plum tree that's about 10 years old and has been rotting around the trunk. I listened to the show a few weeks ago when you were talking about how to make your own compost. I made a box around the trunk and started putting compost around the trunk. Will this help with nutrients? And also, how far back should I prune the limbs?
Yeah, two good questions. The compost, and let me hit them both. Compost feeds the soil. As leaves fall in the woods, they break down and they go down, they feed tree roots. So that's a good idea. I don't know that I'd put it 2 feet deep around a fruit tree though, because it takes a while. If you do make a compost, pull it back from the trunk. Make a donut, not a fire ant mound, because you want that trunk or go all the way to the ground. If you pile stuff up on it, it can get decay or insects or voles or mice can gnaw on it. So pull it back away from the trunk itself, a few inches or a foot or so all the way around. Other than that, it's called mulch. You know, you're mulching your trees with leaves. And that's all compost is. But as far as pruning it, what I would do is this wintertime, I would go in and I would thin out some of the clutter. It's like eyebrows. You got bushy eyebrows growing all over your face. Pull out the ones that are in the wrong place, leave the ones that you like, and thin out some of the rest. There's no easier way to put it. No two people do it alike. So just thin out some of the cluttered branches, leave the ones that you like, they're growing up and out. If they're too long, cut them back to a branch. Don't just bob it back like a hedge. Uh, when you prune something off, if you're cutting a limb off the trunk or a branch off the limb, don't leave a stub. Wherever it sprouts, cut it off right there. No stubs because they'll rot. So basically, thinning out the clutter. Anything that you can't reach or too far, cut it back to something that's growing the direction you want or that you can reach. Thinning and shaping, that's all it is. And don't worry about which ones to do because you and I and a dozen horticulture would not cut the same branches. But thin and shape and don't leave stubs.
That's pretty concise right there.
You know, there's a whole book. You know, the whole book's written on composting. It's just a leaf pile. This whole book's on pruning. It's like plucking eyebrows. Okay, pretty much.
But you did give I guess the number one tip is don't put your compost so close because it could damage your roots or the tree trunk.
Yeah, mulching a ring, not a volcano. A lot of people do this and they say they don't have problems. Well, I see a lot of problems doing that. If you don't have a compost pile or system, find a place you can pile leaves up and throw your vegetable scraps. That's all it is. That's all it is. Bury stuff if you're worried about vermin or smells or anything. Just keep your little piece of a shovel and cover stuff up. It's not that big a deal. So anyway, we're going to be talking about gardening every week right here on MPB. We got what's going on in Mississippi. What's it called, Java?
Next stop, Mississippi. You about to mess me up.
Next time, Mississippi. What's going on in Mississippi? Anyway, stick with us, folks. If you want to share this link, tell people to go to YouTube, type in Gestalt Gardener, and here's looking at y'all, all y'all. See you next week. Hey, if you get a chance, go to a garden center, help them find ways to help you get dirty, and show a kid how to do it while you're at it.